So at the end of the 20th century, we have problems. I don't know which one is right. Either one may be right. Is a mix right? Are we supposed to buy societies? Or are we supposed to kind of be abhorred with this thing and say, well, this culture actually is the wrong kind of culture? Is it going to be a mix? How is architecture going to happen? And this is only the Chinese way of thinking. Because if you look at the last 8,000 years and the way people dealt with their life, there are many, many different ways in which you can build up a culture. And you can at least distinguish 5. We, of course, are very used to Western scientific thinking. Other people are very, very used to Judeo-Christian thinking. Then we have Chinese thinking, which is completely different than the thinking in India. And all of those are completely different from the thinking of, for instance, the American Indian societies. All the people that are very, very close to nature. And so in the last 8,000 years, when nothing changed, which is of course saying it very, very bluntly, but when we had very, very little change, what you saw in this really thin, eerie, tiny biosphere is that we came up with certain patterns of behavior to solve the existential problems that we all share, which, as you know, are the relationship that people have with nature, that you and I have with nature, the relationship that we have with other people, and the relationship that we have with the higher, with the mysterious, with the religious. And all these different people in this really tiny little thing actually came up with at least five different patterns or strategies to solve this problem. And now at the end of the 20th century, they converge. Actually, they call it reconciliation. But what converges? How the hell are we supposed to know about these things? How are we going to integrate these things? So what I would like to show you now is two pieces of Koyanis Katsi.
My piece is so abstract, and the most important thing is to show the concept of my piece. Then in the links I show my piece, all the equipment into one room. So I try to show the video about the installation in links. So you can see 3 kiosks and 1 matrix cubes. I call that sculpture matrix cubes. So this is a very different installation style in DEAF. Each 2 people can talk each other through the microphone, and also on the avatar there is a video image is mapped on, so people can talk each other, and also they can see their face each other. So this moment is the second moment of an interesting situation. So they are facing each other in a virtual space, but their real body is not facing almost a different direction.
You can travel through the virtual spaces. It's connected to a matrix cubes up there. That's that object in front of at the entrance. And that object at the entrance is the representation of the 32 virtual cubes, but they are built in Lego. You will see that there are always 3 doors open of these cubes. So there are 32 boxes with doors, and 3 of them are open. If you go from one space to another, the door from the space which you're in will close, and the door of the space where you're going to will open. There are also 3 television sets up there, in which you can see how people are interacting in the 3 different cubes. You will more or less overview the network and how people are dealing and working in this network. Because all the 3 people on the cubes are all traveling in the same virtual spaces. They will also meet in these spaces. And if people connect with each other in a space, video screens pop up and the sound connection will be established. So people can see each other, can start talking to each other, and they can talk about, for example, the objects which are in it, and which can be dealt with because there are tools in it with the 2 buttons here.
But the most important thing about my piece is, rather than technology, it's a very, very deeply concerned about the communication and the digital networking.
There's about 1/3 of the world that rolling machines cannot travel. And so when it becomes very difficult, there are special rolling machines. This is also one from the past, a very old one. Now, it's just a mechanical trick to get up and over these obstacles. But if you think about controlling this, you see the sensor, which first gets a snapshot of the ground, and then of the sky, and then of the ground. And if you are making a computer model of the world that surrounds, that is very difficult. Yeah. So if you've not seen them for the first time you see them, they look so odd. And I think that visual appeal, it is there for technical reasons, but I believe now that these machines actually can enchant, intrigue, and I believe that they will be a great future of these machines entertaining and being in events and advertisements and movies. Talk about dexterous motion and fine things. But you know, there is. I really like this. It's a simple idea from an early group. And I think it demonstrated to me, you know, always, there's just so much creativity, so much original thinking in the world. And from this already, they have made tiny walking machines and surgical machines that go inside the body. These are not just moving around, but there is no power. They have little wheels under them, but there's no power. It's like rollerblading, so there's no motors under the wheels. They just do it from body motion. And there's so many places where things like your arm can't reach in, but snakes can point the head and then follow with the body. These are toys. By the way, there's nothing here that's earlier than 10 years ago. There's nothing earlier than 10 years ago. Here you see a truck, and there is no person driving. And there is no person driving behind the scene either. This is not teleoperation, but a machine that looks into the world and then makes the plan and travels all day. Other great breakthroughs were to take these capabilities into products. So now if you want one of these, you can buy them. And in the beginning, it is a very long path to industry and products, and now that is understood, it is more important to go beyond single machines and single companies into a whole industry. And so that is the challenge of this generation.
Hey, we've got something. You mean this is the first time we've had it on?
No.
No, there's not enough light. Is this a light on me?
No, no.
Can we put the light on me?
degrees with motion and sound, and everything is synchronized to the environment we're in. What we're going to do is we're going to be exploring a metaphor for the simulator, which is on the harbor, which is the heart of Rotterdam. And we're going to experience that by meeting people in virtual space, and their stories are going to be downloaded. There is motion, so hang on. And if the motion should bother you, just walk to the edge and look out down towards the floor. Now this environment that we're in starts in the harbor. This is the marine simulator environment, and this is our environment where we begin. Now, when we meet people, we literally come up to them, and they're divided into 4 groups. And this one is economy. These are people who talk about their reason for being in Rotterdam based on economy. And you'll notice as we come up to them, they download. The way in which the projection environment occurs is that there are 26 network computers. 12 of them are dedicated to creating this image in real time. One computer drives one projector, and there are 12 projectors in all that give us the image, and they're synchronized, so it creates a seamless image of a 360-degree environment. It's not a videotape, it's not a CD, it's not a laser disc. It's happening in real time, and it behaves in relation to what we request it to do. Each of the images that you see and you hear were recorded by people in the street. A team went out from V2 organization and recorded 136 interviews on the streets of Rotterdam about how people felt about the city of Rotterdam, their cultural background, and how if they were from an ethnic background, how that affected their relationship to traditional Dutch culture. And that's what you're hearing now. This is the environment of economy. We're now going to leave here and travel through a ventricle to another one of the 4 chambers. First we have to find it, and then we can move towards it. That's one. I think that's the one we want to go towards. And as we go out, you want to hang on because it's a little, and watch out the back as we disappear from the space we just came from and we begin to enter. I've got navigated. These are the 4 spaces. So anybody who would like as we enter the next space to navigate, come on, get forward.
After being young, after being young.
Musing means daydreaming, so I decided to offer a waterbed which makes the user very comfortable, and that accompanies this program which supports computer-aided brainstorming, as you may call it. And also with the waterbed, of course, it is implied to have artificial body warmth and 2 clocks which display time in irregular intervals, and this is similar like when we know it's 5 to 9 and then it's 10 after 9. So all this together sets up this installation. This is Muser Service, the program for daydreaming, and it allows users to enter associations, linguistic materials, but also references to websites through the internet, and then stores it in a database and allows to create chains of associations. And you can select a start and a goal and some methods which will determine the artificial chain. So what we do next is just select a start object. In this list, you see all the so-called objects which already have been gathered. And maybe I just choose adventure.
Adventure can be inspired by a rationality leading to problems is always new as progress is optimized, as machine is optimized, as state is necessary, as effort sometimes leads to art.
Aim for this program was to use such an efficient tool as computers are considered to manage fantasy and let them create especially unusual and sort of transhuman thoughts.
As a lack of courage.
Und ihren Körper beherrschen. Lernen ihre Atmung kontrollieren und ihren Körper beherrschen. Yoga führt zur Steigerung ihrer Lebensfreude, Gesundheit, Elasticität und Leistung. Üben Sie deshalb regelmäßig mit dieser Steigerung. Beachten Sie dabei die schriftliche Anleitung auf der Hülle. Ihre Yogastunde beginnt.
like this called molecular informatics. So this VR glass have eye tracking sensor in it. So each human eye have different pupil size or different size of this white part. Or some people are really, I think lots of people think human interface is just called human interface. But I think each individual are different. So how to connect computer, or I'm not trying to do my just work kind of between things. Human and the computer, or human and this content, human and peace. You know, I'd like to express this between things called agent. So this is, first you have to calibrate your eyes like this. Left, it automatically appears this form. Actually, this is interactive art, absolute interactive art. Without interaction, nothing appears. This is my piece, but I just program it. So each audience have to make this form. And also, he is same thing. So this is two users version. We try to connect each other, make form, and also this image is each second a different images. Sometimes communicate each other, sometimes discommunicate each other. This is whole kind of infinite 3D space. I call infinite, but I kind of stop the time at 3 minutes. But infinite space, sometimes meet each other, sometimes discommunicate each other, and then make form together. Actually, that is not simulation of computer art, an emulation mode. So he made a modern. That is form. We made each other. But so real time form, computer generated. So that is computer programming already. If you look something, computer automatically real time to make this molecule or a cold sphere.
Delocaties zijn plaatsen waarvan aan de ene kant de lokaliteit ten dele wordt ontkend, maar ten dele wordt de lokaliteit ook versterkt. We zetten als het ware onze vensters open door materiële en immateriële kabels die in ons huis lopen en aansluiten op de netwerken die we opbouwen, maar we tegelijkertijd waar we altijd al waren. Delocations is een experiment. Het is een soort laboratorium waar kunstenaars en theoretici met elkaar aan de slag gaan over het thema, de plaats van het woord in de beeld. En dat betekent dus dat het project open is voor nieuwe ideeën, dat het onaf is en dat ook zal blijven. Waarschijnlijk als we in de loop van het jaar verder gaan. Heel kort even hoe het project verder is opgezet. Ik zal een hoop laten vallen vanwege de taalproblemen. Delocaties is een project wat over een jaar gaat lopen en waar 8 verschillende thema's zullen worden uitgewerkt. Digital History is de eerste van Delocaties. Aanstaande zaterdag opent de tweede, fictionele stad. Vervolgens zullen we nog over storyline hebben, over mores, over oraliteit, over lichaamsschema en performancetaal, over visuele en theoretische intelligentie en over tenslotte virtuele talen. 8 verschillende werkgroepen bestaande uit kunstenaars en theoretici zullen steeds die verschillende relaties tussen woordbeeld en plaats gaan onderzoeken.
The relationship between interactive and hypermedia and the breakdown of the narrative is not coincidental. Lyotard's postmodern condition, for example, established a pivotal assessment of the effects of technology on knowledge. The opening chapter of his book read like a diagnosis, quote, and it's fair to say that for the past 40 years, the leading sciences and technologies have had to do with language, phonology, theories of linguistics, problems of communication and cybernetics, modern theories of algebra and informatics, computers and their languages, problems of translation, and the search for areas of compatibility among computer languages, problems of information and databanks, telematics, and the perfection of intelligent terminals, paradoxology. The facts speak for themselves. Slowly, we realize that the links between the development of electronic technology and that of postmodern culture are really clear. Critical theory, psychoanalytic criticism, critiques of technology, sociology, philosophy, and the other disciplines have emerged to address a deconstructed subject of culture. Landau's hypertext, The Convergence of Contemporary Critical Theory and Technology, elaborates a persuasive case for the affinity between deconstruction and technology in terms of the technologizing of discourse.
We try to build a content and context database for the arts, in which we want a very direct involvement of the artists themselves. So we don't create tools for people to use, and they have to learn how to use them, but we try to create those tools in a way of, as a way of collaboration. And for us it's really important that our network serves this idea. So it's a platform, we try to extend it, so we try to extend the possibilities.
Anything has happened here over the last week that kind of has changed at least slightly the look at people's own projects, or maybe ideas of how they're going to develop them in the future, just to see whether the concept has worked.
It's a big system. I don't know if I'd say, okay, start using it, but the layout and for research and understanding how to gather information to put into a project is very important, or writing papers and developing your ideas, especially on the web, and which I've done a lot of, and I'm still doing, and I'm finding myself trying to create my own patterns with many different programs.
Usually they think about we think in the brain, but when we got some idea, when we move to somewhere or go to the toilet and then we got some idea, that means our body is thinking the kind of idea very familiar with me. So sometimes for me in the European culture, they think too much with the brain only.
The brain, I see.
Sometimes.
And with the visual representations, with 3D and 3D navigation, that was really interesting, and it was also that there was somehow, I felt related to the things you mentioned by the Project Merz, or when you said the Dada or Schwitter's relationship, that I feel maybe you don't see it in the first one, but I really feel there is a relation, because we say it's a situationistic approach.
I think they are all very different in intent and also in the way they've been worked out. But there are some things we can discuss more in general. One is the choice of metaphors, because every time you create a virtual world or a virtual system, you choose metaphors. That's maybe one point of discussion. The other one is that people behind this table might be considered to be a kind of vanguard of developments in media, vanguard of artistic.
An alternative art institute that Artpool's aim was to inform Hungarian artists about the international art scene and to create contacts between Hungarian and international art. On the other hand, Artpool has attempted to document the activities of Hungarian artists and to make it accessible to the public. Thus, it has collected documents on the alternative art of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and set up an archive. In the Artpool archive, there is the world's largest collection of artists' stamped works. Artpool was officially recognized and opened to the public in 1989.
The Center has a board of Hungarian art historians, artists, the head of Silicon Graphics, the head of the Hungarian local telephone company, and also have an international advisory board with Marina Grichnich, Kathy Ray-Huffman, Richard Kreischer from Austria, and Siegfried Zrinski from Germany. And in a way, this is quite different to a normal Soros Foundation activity, because they don't normally have international committees. But it's very, very important to have this for various reasons.
Now in September, I made online Russian version of this discussion online too. It's you can see the circle of what's happening. And I'd like to, I told all these things not only to pronounce once again how beautiful and useful is net communication, and not only to stress its life important for such marginal groups like our.
Perhaps you're all aware about the mainstream. Actually, this is the latest in video art in Bulgaria. It is the annual exhibition of the Service Center for the Arts, but just as a background for my talk. So perhaps at least you can. I don't know what's wrong. Anyway, at least you can enjoy the space because it was really a wonderful space. That was one of the merits of the exhibition. Anyway, this is the archaeological museum that is located in a former mosque in town, the biggest mosque in town.
Through this event, we have had the opportunity to present projects from institutions such as EKM, the Institute for New Media, individuals such as Stella, Martin Spaniard, and various other individuals who otherwise students would not know about or have access to.
I'm not going to present media or video production in Slovenia. It was presented elsewhere, and there is, however, a short text trying to outline the context and the position being held by video art in its almost 30 years of history. However, we could say that the situation in Slovenia is quite paradoxical. Although there is a real extensive history of media production and recent media production, there is no media center in Slovenia.
Show you what we mean with the term connecting places with information. That means you can get here every kind of information or service you expect in such a cultural location. That means we are going now inside the concert hall, and there we have a switch from this high-end virtual reality model to a VRML model. And there you can see that the quality is not so bad. And now everybody is able to, they're really just the first simple examples for it, to change place, to try out what kind of place you would like most. And it's just to show you where 3D information access could be quite useful. On the other hand, we have integration of 3D and 2D information in form of simple web pages. In order to give information, you need in form of text-based information. It means here you can get an overview over the program of the next few months in this Schauspielhaus. Maybe some words to the construction of this high-end virtual reality model. As I already said, we try to construct or build it up very detailed and accurate. It means that we have as a basic the official digitized but 2D map of Berlin. It's called in Berlin, I only know the German expression, I have to apologize that it's called the automatische Liegenschaftskarte.
Let me start by saying that when we talk about digital space, we're really talking about two worlds. One is a deeply private world, a world of power where networked space, computer networked space, assumes profoundly hierarchical forms. The other world is a public world. It's the world of the net, which up till recently could really be thought of as a space of freedom, where networked space produces a different type of power, distributed power. Besides these two worlds, there is a second issue that I'd like to sort of bring to the fore, and that is the fact that these two worlds, which have really coexisted for about 15 years without too much intersection, have in the last 3 years intersected. And this has created a number of, let's say, disturbances. I like here is the organization that is sponsoring this unstable media. Is that? Yeah. Well, we're dealing now with an unstable medium. And this also means that, in my reading, net space, the internet, needs to be re-theorized, rethought,
We agree that economic life is changing. It's becoming networked, meaning economic life starts to be characterized by collaboration among different sectors of an industry. A firm is not doing everything itself. These networks are transnational. These networks need to be established in a particular localities. But this networking scenario isn't necessarily local. It could be local, but it is not automatically guaranteed. It doesn't necessarily guarantee either automatically labor participation and labor democracy at the workplace, as well as local development. So the effects of this networking at that level are kind of contradictory and ambiguous. But what I find interesting is that as the economy changes, the government of this economic life is also changing. I mean, by the government, I mean not just the state, but the system of regulation of this economic life. In the sense that networks imply a return to place, to proximity, and to some sort of local communitarianism. But what this means, and this is what I would like to suggest as a reading for the discussion, is that the government of the social in the name of, say, a national economy seems to be given away here to government of particular zones, whether regions, towns, sectors, communities, more in the interest of economic circuits which flow between regions and across national boundaries. The second point that I find interesting is that as the government of this economic life changes, the government of conduct, meaning the government of individuals, also changes, or seems to be changing.
I have at the beginning a question to myself. What is the crucial product of the electronic age? The answer is immortality. John Wayne is the product of the electronic age. So part one is entitled Fast Forward. I had a number of slides to accompany this lecture, but they've been abandoned, so some references will be irrelevant. It is normal in our time to believe that history has ended, that it ended with the Cold War. This view is not correct. The Cold War was a kind of refrigerant that preserved an old belief system that saw technology as an instrument of policy under the control of governments. Since the end of the Cold War, we have realized that this is not true. We live in a world where policy, in the old nationalistic sense, no longer exists. Because we have interposed technology between ourselves and the environment, the fate of technology has become our own fate. Policy is not what we make technology do, but what technology makes us do. Like a primitive tribe in a vanishing jungle, we have no choice in the matter. We must follow the manufacturer's instructions for our technological systems. If they don't work, we die. That is our policy.
What would become of identity? What would become of community? What would become of the polis? What would become of the city? Were that imaginary speculative future to actually come about? I mean, I think that's a question there may be some profit in asking. The other question to ask is, why is that not coming about if it's technologically increasingly feasible? The tools are increasingly there to do that. Why is it not happening? You know, what channels flows in particular directions? What are the forms of boundaries that can be thrown up to prevent, subvert, slow down, or filter that particular kind of becoming vectoral, the becoming of a world of universal telesthesia? Why is that not the future? That strikes me as one way of framing certain questions in relation to this history that I'm talking about.
times we slept together. I wish you could be here now.
Maria's a good girl. I'm sorry, we're not supposed to talk to the natives.
Well, it's a shame that you really feel like that.
They love it here. My baby will especially love the fireflies and glow beetles buzzing around the wild orange blossom.
So you coming to the moratorium or what? Nah, I'm gonna go back up the mountain. You're just gonna cop out again. What difference is one person gonna make anyway?
Most beloved part of humankind, paying public. This is a story left for posterity by the Eindhoven Dagblad on the 7th day of April, 1984. Kilcola Ultralight is a sad story about drowning in numbers.
Une fois arrivé avec le camion, c'était un voyage à peu près de nuit que je voulais aller de retour à mon pays, Bulgarie. This is a song about Yudmila Sivkova. Yudmila Sivkova, star of communism, flame at the top. It took a couple of years.
I am a firm believer of truth. I am a firm believer
of stories, of whatever they say. I am a firm believer of what is written in John Livingston Seagull, John Carpenter Dog, John Goose, Bossa Nova.